So without further ado, I want to introduce someone tonight. He's probably, if not the most organized person I've ever met, he's one of the most organized people I've ever met. And when I met him, I fell in love with the guy right away because I saw here's a man who loves Christ and loves application of his Christian faith. And that means a lot to me. I saw that he understood that true Christianity is iconoclastic, that it changes nations, it topples the idols of a culture and of a nation, that it brings honor to Christ, that the governments of men are to honor Christ.
Come on.
Massively important. And without further ado, I want to introduce to you John Mishner, and you can call him the Mish. Give him a warm welcome.
Does anybody know what an ado is? Because we're never furthering it when I come up. I grew up in a snow globe.
Snow globe.
I'll come back to that. But I want to shout out to
the
Hannah
story?
and Julia and Molly. Thanks for representing Oklahoma so well and being here. Isn't it amazing that the remnant, the body of Christ, the true church, the ecclesia, it's everywhere you go. It doesn't matter if it's Milwaukee or Florida or California, the land of fruits and nuts. You will find us everywhere. And it's a joy to be with fellow fruits and nuts. Okay, so back to the snow globe. Wow, snow globe. Last time I was here, how many feet of snow were out there in the parking lot?
Oh my gosh.
More than 10 feet of snow out. And it was like the last week of March. Okay, so you're all familiar with the snow globe concept, right? Here's this perfect bubble, and everything inside is perfect. The snow floats around. Oh, y'all mute your phones, please. There's phones going on. So the snow is floating around, and there's a little perfect castle. Like, everything is perfect, right? I grew up in a Christian snow globe, a bubble. To be honest with you, I didn't know any sinners growing up. We had like this perfect church with one token sinner. We all knew the guy who was the alcoholic. And so when the preacher talks about sin from the pulpit, we're like, so, now some of you don't know me yet, but hey, my tongue is firmly in my cheek, okay? As you get older, your eyes are open to things. You begin to learn as you travel and experience life. And here I thought I was in a snow globe. I didn't know the corruption that was around me. You know, my mom and dad stayed married. Most of the kids in my church had a mom and dad at home. It was a very different time. Part of that is because I grew up at a military base. So you're talking, you know, blacks and whites and Hispanics and Koreans, you know, all these different people. But they work together, they depend on each other, and it's a community that has like culture. And so all of us children are going to the same schools, going to the same church, similar experiences. I didn't know, I never even heard the word racism growing up. You know, I'm 17 years old, I moved to Oklahoma City, and after a few months of being there, I started scratching my head going, how come all the black people live in this little inner city circle and all the white people live out here around them? Like, I didn't get it, because they were all on the street with me and we played together. But my point is, as we begin to experience life, how far do I have to go?
It's a normal speaker thing. We keep cutting your face off.
This thing gets between you and me. I want to be able to connect with you. And, okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I just want to connect with you. I want to share some stories, some experiences that I've had over the years, and tell you what I learned from them. And then I ask myself a question as I learn these things. If this is true, how should I reorder my life, my work, my time around this truth? So I really appreciate what Matt said, because that's how I live. I have always lived my life since I was a young man. I discovered something is true. I changed the way I live. Growing up in Central Texas, I discovered it's hot. I started wearing shorts. Right? It's a no-brainer. But mind you, I'm growing up in a family where we wore suits and ties to an ultra-conservative church every Sunday. So I'm just, knee-high to a grasshopper, and I got a knee-high grasshopper-sized suit that my mom sewed for me with a clip-on tie. So when I figured out that I could use my own brain, and when it's hot, I should wear shorts, well, I've been doing that ever since. But I've been doing that theologically as well, and in the way I want to advance the kingdom as well. If something doesn't work, don't do it anymore. So I've really been bogged down. Let me speed up. I'm going to skip decades all the way to 2007 because I grew up in a snow globe. Now I'm out and I'm learning things. Now in 2007, I had a really unique job that allowed me to travel a lot. I got to go see old friends and meet them and hang out with them while I was, selling and doing other stuff. And I just really had it in my mind that I wanted to go out to Tucson, Arizona and see this friend of mine that I had gone to school with like 16, 17 years before. So I decided to make it a work trip, right? The company's paying for it. I'm going to get to see my buddy, go out to eat. It's going to be great. While I'm out there, I understand that Justice for All is going to do an outreach at the University of Arizona. And I had heard about them. I knew some people that volunteered with them. I'm like, whoa, 18-foot tall pictures comparing abortion to genocide and the Holocaust? Like, I got to go see this. So I go out and see it. But they're not just about an exhibit. They had a habit back then of training a lot of volunteers to be with them. People like you all would go hang out around the exhibit and engage in one-on-one dialogue with all the students there. And it was really pro-life evangelist is what it was. But I didn't know that until I got out there. So, at this point in my life, I know enough to share my faith. I know enough to ask good questions. And so I start, like 8 o'clock in the morning, talking to students on campus. And I'm just saying, so, hey, what do you think about abortion? Are you in favor of late-term abortion? Because I'm trying to start the conversation on a safe ground, And I just started talking to them, one student, 2 students, 3 students. About an hour and 45 minutes of talking to maybe a dozen students, I completely lost it. My snow globe was just shattered. I mean, I thought I knew something about sin. I was overwhelmed. Every conversation was another wave just drowning me in the ocean. And that's in less than 2 hours. I'm 30-something years old. I'm married. I got kids. And I'm overwhelmed. And so I just sat down under the palm tree and just bawled my eyes out for 30 minutes and thought, I don't think I can man up. I don't think I can handle this.
Come on.
So I learned. I had this experience, and I learned there's a dadgum Holocaust going on all around me, and I was clueless. I was watching Monday Night Football and eating pizza and doing my job and excited to see an old friend while 3,000 babies are going to get killed today. It's all these kids around me doing it.
Come on.
And the other thing I realized is that it's affecting everybody. I mean, you've heard the statistics. It touches 1 in 4 Americans. I mean, we are missing brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles. Everybody's been affected. And see that number, that 3,000 a day, over 1 million a year, to me, that was like the national debt. It's not even a real number. You could throw numbers around like that on a stage at a pro-life rally all day long. I did the marches. I held the signs when I was a kid. I did life chain, prayer chain. I'm out there on the street going, for life, abortion stops a beating heart. But did I get it? I didn't get it till I'm 30-something years old, and I'm talking to students who say, oh, my girlfriend's had an abortion. Oh, yeah, I got one scheduled next week. Yeah, my sister's gone through that. Oh, yeah, I paid for one the other day. Never experienced anything like that before. So how shall I live? Well, I tell you what I did. I decided I had to become an uber hyper volunteer. And I just started spending all of my free time, my vacation time, everything I could do. I just wanted to go talk to people about abortion because I knew that I would also get to talk to them about why it's wrong and what they should do to repent. Yeah. And so that's just what I did. That's how I changed my life. So for the next 3 years, that's what I did. And then I was sitting with another friend, another kind of crazy hyper volunteer one time. We were having dinner, sharing our experiences. And she goes, hey, John, there's an entire industry. People are working full time to kill babies. That's why the number is so crazy high. It's an industry. They're working full time. Who's working full time to stop it? It didn't hurt as bad as it. Normally that trick works, but I hang my bicycles from the garage to save space, and I hit a bicycle like 3 days ago in that same spot. So Let me use the side of the head if I use that trick again. Yeah, so she goes, so who's working full time to stop it? But it was one of those moments when I went, okay, if that's true, how should I reorder my life and my work and my time around this truth? And that's when I quit my job and went full time. Right about that time, my wife is in the grocery store. She runs into our old boss from years and years before, who says, oh, I had to fire somebody today. And Jane goes, I might could come back to work. My husband's thinking about going into ministry. And she said,
You're bleeding.
you're kidding. This is becoming epic. I'm catching up with the theme of the night. I mean, I didn't propose, but now we have blood on the stage. This is great. Note to self, in future speeches, draw blood. Right? All right, so back to my story. If it starts cooling up, let me know. I'll dab it off again. So anyway, my wife goes back to work after years in her old job, same salary, same benefits, everything. And she's able to work for 12 months, long enough for me to raise support and go full time. So made a decision, did it. So years are going by, and I'm doing this ministry. And now what I want to do is get you in what my mind was at that time. What was my frame of mind of ministry? And what was I thinking? What was driving me philosophically? To do that, I will remind you of the story that Lauren Isley wrote called The Star Thrower. You've probably all heard it in preacher's sermons, but if you remember, there's a boy out walking along the beach. And an older man up there by the parking lot is looking down. He sees this boy walking along, and he's picking up starfish and throwing them back into the water. And the older guy comes down and says, young man, what are you doing? He goes, well, the tide's gone out, and all these starfish have been stranded along the beach, and I'm rescuing them. Son, don't you understand? There are miles of beach, thousands of stars. You can't possibly make a difference. I made a difference to that one. Right? So that's what I'm thinking. I have to save as many starfish as I possibly can. And as I go, I'm going to train other people to do it with me. And that's what you guys were getting this morning in class, and what we'll continue with tomorrow and Wednesday, so that you'll be able to keep rescuing starfish. Now, that was my frame of reference at that time. And I was thinking that, you know what, if enough of us get out there and teach enough people and save enough starfish, we will change the culture, and then public policy will change. Public policy follows the will of people, and it will change. So that was my thinking. So I carry on with this for several more years until the summer of 2012, when I find myself once again on a beach, for real, in person. Now, imagine your favorite beach. I like the Atlantic side, personally. I like the waves, I like the softer sand, Frank knows. And I've been all the way down to the Keys a couple of times, enjoying these beaches. And right now you're imagining pristine blue water, beautiful white sand. I got news for you. That's not its natural state, especially on the Atlantic side. Do you know that if you get down there early in the morning, which is when I like to go when it's quiet, the beach is a mess. There is all kinds of flotsam and jetsam, old dead seaweed, black biting flies. It stinks. It's nasty out there on the beach in the morning. So how does it get so pretty when you show up later with all your friends? There's a tractor that goes down the beach every morning and cleans it up. Okay, here we go again. Now you can't see the blood. I'm going, whoa, we can save all the starfish. We just need a tractor. Where does the tractor come from? It's owned by the local government entity. People collectively went, we're not cleaning up all this trash, but collectively as the government, they do. And we can save all the starfish. And that's when I had this aha moment that, yeah, this is great. Yes, we have to go and throw starfish. We have to be salt and light in our areas of influence. But if we ever really want to abolish abortion and see this Holocaust come to an end, it will take the government tractor.
Amen!
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's their duty.
people follow the law. We've all been on the interstates and on the streets today. Did anyone pass you going 120 miles an hour? There's always some exceptions, right? But generally people follow the law. Why do they not speed? Because there's a sign and because there's cops and you'll get in trouble if you break the law. And I went, what are we doing sitting around here just waiting for the culture to change? We could lead them and teach them with the law.
Hello.
And save all these babies. So that changed me again. I asked once again, well, if this is true, how should I change the way I'm spending my time and my energy, my resources? What do we need to be doing? So in 2014, I founded Oklahoma's United for Life. And the idea was I'm going to communicate to the people of Oklahoma what they need to know about changing public policy. And I want to communicate to the magistrates, to the people in charge. They need to fire up the tractor, and here's how they should do it, and put it into this mess to clean it up, right?
Amen.
So what happened then is that put me in close face-to-face experience with pro-life politics and pro-life politicians, none of which I'd had any experience with. So I started researching pro-life legislation, finding out how do we change public policy, what's the process, what do I need to do to be a part of that, to let people know, and all of that. So 2014, my first experience with all of this was a House bill that was being run at the time. Number was probably 147, and it was a ban on dismemberment abortion. Now that sounds like a pretty cool thing, right? Let's not rip little babies apart. So I'm reading the law, because now I'm paying attention to the details, and I get down to the part where it's supposedly going to ban dismemberment abortion, and it says that an unborn child shall not be killed by dismemberment. And then it goes on to talk about the forceps and the pliers and all the different things that they use to do that. And I'm going, shall not be killed by dismemberment. Huh. So you mean you can kill them first and then dismember them? Yeah, that's what it means. They put these little loopholes into the bill so they don't really ever change anything but the order of the way doctors do things. And who's going to report it anyway? The abortionist didn't kill him first before he ripped them apart. Who's going to testify to that? And that was my first clue that there's a farce going on. That this is some kind of theater for the pro-life masses, and the rest of us are just kind of duped, and we're reading the news stories and going, oh, I got to fight for this bill. And the whole time it's garbage. It's a cozy arrangement where all these little pro-life lobbyists who have all this money come in here and say, this year we're going to do a dismemberment ban. If you want to get reelected, support this bill. We're going to put money behind it. We're going to pass it. You can claim victory, and you'll get money, and you'll get votes, and you can stay in office. And that's the way this game works. And they've been doing it year after year after year. In Oklahoma, we have over 112 pages of bills like this that have not stopped abortion in our state. They just keep it safe and legal. So I saw this, and I went, what? How now shall I live? And so that year I went all over the state kind of telling people, this is what's up. And by the way, when it comes to re-election time, let's not give them any kudos or credit for supporting this bill. And not enough people listened to me. That bill ended up being used on a conservative index to give them a pat on the back. I was really disappointed. But we've made a lot more progress in Oklahoma since 2014, and they are not getting away with that kind of thing now. They are not getting credit for it. So I decided I'm only going to support principal bills. So a year or two go by, and there's a couple of bills that I think I should support. I think they're I already said it, principled, right? So one of them was not as good as the other, but it would have effectively closed down our abortion bills. And so I was supporting that one and trying to get people behind it. And we had a private meeting with the governor. I didn't get to attend, but some of my pastor friends were there, and they say, she swore she would sign this bill. So we worked very hard, got it to her desk, and she vetoed it. And then the legislature bravely ran away and didn't even try to vote for an override. So the fix was in from the start, more political theater, all a game. And you got to understand, this is Oklahoma. This is the buckle of the Bible Belt where we have more pretend Christians than any other state, right? So I was kind of shocked. I was kind of shocked because we had Republican leadership in the House and Senate, Republican government. Okay, none of that stuff matters. Forget the R and the D.
That's right.
Forget it. It's a job. It's about truth and justice, and most of them have sold out by the time they get elected. They've done so much compromising to get the job, they got no spine left. It's all been compromised right out of them. So there's a few exceptions, and it's very hard to get things done. So here I am with this experience with the legislature, this experience with the governor, and about that time I read a book by some schmuck up in Milwaukee called The Doctrine of the Lesser Magistrate. And you put all of that together, and it's a new experience, and I say, how now shall I live? What are we going to do now? So how many of you were there at Cathedral Square this morning and heard, was it Bo read the resolution? Okay, that was based on an Oklahoma resolution that our House of Representatives actually passed a couple of years ago. And it outlines that abortion is not constitutional, it's against the law, SCOTUS was out of line, and the conclusion is it calls on the governor, the sheriffs, and all law enforcement, the attorney general to right now stop abortion immediately. Now it's just a resolution. We are resolved that this should happen. So I'm standing there next to Pastor Dan Fisher from my church, and he's doing an interview for a TV show about what this resolution means, that the people of Oklahoma, through their representatives, have said, we must abolish abortion. And he says, we need a governor that'll do that. Amen! And, I'm over there off camera going, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Pastor Fisher. So he finally comes through and decides to run for governor, and I got to work on his campaign for a year. So we're now talking about executive action.
Come on.
This is the only thing that will bring abolition to the forefront, to create the battle of jurisdictions, and to resolve the issue. And that's why we ran an abolitionist for governor, why he was willing to do that. So everything else that happens in the state capitals, it's just theater for our consumption. Now, we probably have a lot of sports fans in here, and we know the way the sports season works, right? There's the regular season, then there's the playoffs, and then there's the Super Bowl. And as you go on, everything ramps up. People start paying more and more attention. You start off listening to the news and your talk radio, then you really get into it, and you're following the stats of who's doing what, and then it gets to the playoffs. Now all eyes are on it. And then that piece of legislation goes to the Super Bowl for the governor to sign. And then what? Nothing. Some court somewhere goes unconstitutional, and your governor goes, oh, gee, I'm sorry, we tried. I'm really disappointed. Next year. It's a game. It's a game. Just like any other sport. We're watching it, we watch the process, we read the stories, and at the end of the day, nobody's got the guts to do anything. Pieces of paper don't save lives. Blood is flowing down the street, and a legislature that writes that that's bad and wrong on a piece of paper won't stop it. An executive who has men with guns and handcuffs can stop it tomorrow. These guys swear. They swear to uphold the Constitution. Equal protection under the law. Equal justice. Take no life without due process. It's against the highest law of the land. The highest law is God's law. You shall not murder. You shall not kill innocent human beings. And we are blessed to live in a nation where our highest law that trumps all the others agrees with God. And they swear to uphold it and don't. They don't need permission from a state legislature or SCOTUS or anybody else to do their job. It's against the law already. Also in that proclamation that Bo read, right here in Wisconsin, you guys got a homicide statute that when you read it, it defends preborn children. We have it the same way in Oklahoma. Part A of our definition says homicide is one human being killing another. Part B, as used in this section, that includes a preborn human being. It's against the law even in our statutes, and nobody is upholding the law. There's so many things the governor can do. They command the National Guard. They command state police. They can blockade the clinics. They can work with the attorney general to arrest all these people involved in this industry and charge them with murder.
Hello? Hello?
It may not work. It may not work on the first case, but you stop people from going in there, it will shut them down. It takes action. The acts of the apostles.
Amen.
Not the legislation of the apostles. If someone's attacking your wife, you don't run up with a statute that says assault and battery is against the law. No, you hit him over the head with a baseball bat.
Shoot him.
I think my time is up. Let me see what I can skip. In conclusion, if something is true, how should we reorder our lives and our work around that truth? That's one of my messages for you tonight. I hope you see that. If it requires executive action to resolve this issue, to uphold the rule of law and to abolish abortion, why are we wasting our time waiting around for SCOTUS or some state legislature to give us permission? Now, those issues over there are important. We do want to iron out our statutes. We do need to establish justice in the statutes so that we can prosecute accurately and fairly. But realize that is good, positive propaganda for us to talk about these pieces of legislation. So sure, we want to support good pieces of legislation, but please realize they will not stop the bloodshed. And even if you pass them, they will do nothing until you get a governor with the backbone to enforce it, okay? So keep your priorities straight in your mind and in your objectives. Until we get an executive leader, we will never abolish abortion. So we have to call on these governors to repent, or we have to replace them. We have to keep running abolitionists everywhere so that they know they can run for governor and they'll have our support. All right. My final word of encouragement. Somebody earlier today asked me, where do you go to church? How do you guys feel about that question? I'm a smart aleck, and I always say, I don't go to church, I am the church. And you all are the church. And I just want to encourage you that you are not alone. God has always had his remnant, but remnant by definition means small. Okay, get used to it. We don't need a majority to win. You've never needed a majority to make things happen with public policy and politics. You just need a fierce, loud, salty remnant. And we have that. So, how should we live? Keep on keeping on. Keep learning and adjust. And keep the faith. Thanks for this opportunity, brother. Praise God. That's the wish. The wish.